Hi there, Chris Kenny here. Welcome to today's Thought Leader Thursday. I hope you're doing incredible. I hope you're having a very productive day. I know that I have up to this point, so hope things are going fabulously for you. And today's topic is I want to talk about what high ticket sales really is, because I think there's a misconception. There's a lot of people that come to me or come to my company and they're interested in selling high ticket. And what I usually learn is what their story is around what high ticket sales is, and then it becomes really it becomes super understandable as to why they're not currently selling high ticket, because there's some resistance, and the resistance is coming from the story that they have about what it really is. And with this in mind, I want to take you back to when I started selling high ticket and what I thought it was. I remember raising my rates from $2,400 for 6 months. It was $2,400 for 6 months of coaching. And then I raised my rates all the way up to $15,000 for 6 months of coaching. And I remember when that idea was presented to me to raise the rate. I remember one of the first things that I thought was, oh my God, I need to know every single thing that's in this package. I need to know, I need another 3,700 bullet points in this package in order for me to be able to sell this package for $15,000. And, that was this really fascinating thing. And that, really came down to not understanding my own value. It came down to this story that I had, and I think that a lot of people have, is, if you're selling something for $2,000 or $3,000 and now you want to sell it for $15,000, you must have to add so many different items into the package in order to make that happen. And it's really not true. It's just a misconception around what your own value is. So don't think that if you're gonna, change a price point, elevate a price point, that you really need to, add all of these major components into the program, because it's completely incorrect. So here's the other thing that there's many things that people think, but they also tend to think that in order to elevate a rate, and now they're going to go and they're going to sell at the new rate, they automatically think that now they're going to have to be way more convincing in the enrollment conversation. They think, we're going to have, I'm going to have to convince. And the other thing that comes up is they think they're going to have to convey value better, because again, you're moving from 3,000 to 15,000, and the story is, hey, if I don't convey value better, they're not going to invest the 15,000. So what I want to say about that is, let's move over to the other side of the spectrum and say, okay, that's what people think high ticket selling is going to be, but what is it really? So what it is really is, when you're having an enrollment conversation, goal number one is be more connected. You have to connect more, and that means you have to be willing to go deeper with your potential clients. One of the biggest mistakes people make when they're selling their services is that they move to their solution way too quickly. There's so many opportunities to take a person deeper, especially if you're selling coaching. There's huge value in going deeper with your potential clients. So you got to be willing to be more connected. You've got to be willing to go deeper. And, you have to ask better questions. Write that down. You have to ask better questions, because when we think about conveying value, right, that's what people, want to know. Oh my gosh, I have to convey more value. What you have to do is you have to learn what questions to ask that cause a person to see your value, right? You don't want to just sit there and say, hey, I'm amazing. Look how good my product or service or program is. They're just going to think you're, out of your ever-loving mind. And of course, you're going to say your product, service, or program is really good because you're trying to sell at this particular moment. So you have to learn how to ask better questions in order for them to see the value. Super, super, super important. So the next thing is people often think that in order to, get a sale in a high ticket price, they think they're going to have to push, right? They think, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to be pushy because oftentimes they're already struggling to get the rate that they're charging, right? So now they're thinking, oh my gosh, if I'm going to charge more, I'm going to have to be pushy. And it's also completely incorrect. It's not how it's done. It's not what we teach. What you need to do is you need to learn how to create urgency. And, we've talked about this before, but sales happen when the urgency exceeds the perceived risk of purchase. That's when the sale happens. Urgency exceeds the perceived risk of purchase. When that happens, you've got a sale. And, urgency is also created through asking questions. So, oftentimes a lot of this comes down to what questions are you asking? Are you moving to your solution way too quickly and moving to it too quickly before any urgency has been created? Because if no urgency has been created in the mind of the potential client, they're not going to invest. And it doesn't matter. You could be charging $1,000 or $20,000 if there's no urgency. Well, guess what? They're not going to invest. That's just the way it is. So what I want you to understand is people buy when they feel like you understand their problem or challenge better than anyone else. That's super important. They buy when they perceive that you understand their problem or challenge better than anyone else. So what I want you to shift to is when you're selling, I want you to stop worrying about people understanding you. Like, totally making sure that somebody understands all the bullet points in your products or, all this stuff. It's more about you understanding them and understanding that they will purchase when they feel like you get them, when they feel like you understand their problem or challenge better than anyone else. That's when they'll buy. Period. If they don't feel understood, if they don't feel gotten, if they don't feel like totally connected and understood, they're not going to purchase. But what most people are doing is they're trying to present in a way that makes the potential client understand the seller. In other words, me trying to make my potential client understand me. But that's not what creates the sale. What creates the sale is when they feel like I understand them. So that's a massive shift. So the lesson here is, seek to understand rather than seeking to be understood. And again, that's going to sound contrary. You might think that it's different, but guess what? It's not. When they feel like you get them. I remember when I bought my first high ticket program, this was back in 2009, I felt like so deeply understood by my mentor. I was like, wow, this guy gets me. This guy knows how I think. This guy, he understands this problem so deeply, and he's had this problem before and he's solved it himself and he's been through that. And, that's what created, the desire for me to actually move forward, was feeling like, this person understands me. That was super, super, super super powerful for me. So the other thing that I want to say here is people tend to think that they're going to need to be manipulative. They tend to think that they're going to need to be selfish in some way. And one of the core things that we teach is to always stay in service. That's what we're doing. We're always staying in service. We are here to create an impact on people. We're here to create an impact on the world. And no matter what we're doing, whether we're selling for, $1,000 or $100,000, we are in service. So that's what we want you to be doing. We want you to focus on staying in service, because, when you start raising rates, what can happen is, you start to think about yourself, right? Because you start to think about, hey, how would this sale impact me? This sale is going to have a huge impact on me. It's going to have a huge impact on my life if I close it. Maybe, you're a little tight on your finances right now, or maybe you want to buy a new car or buy a new house, and you start focusing on, what the sale can do for you. And at that point, you can unconsciously, or move out of service because you start thinking about what it's going to do for you. One of the keys is that you make sure you stay focused on what this does for them and how this impacts them and how this makes their world different, because that's the energy that will create the conversion. As soon as there's any sense from your potential client, if they sense it's about you at all, they're gone. They're not going to purchase. So, and if you really think about it, that's the only time, when, these sales calls get awkward. They get awkward when you start to make the sale about you, when you start to think about you. And I've seen it in myself, from way back before I learned. If I started thinking about, hey, let me make this about me, well, guess what? Everything went horribly. So that's what I wanted to share with all of you today. So it's not about being more convincing. It's not about being pushy. It's not about conveying value. It's not about more bullet points. It's not about, more explaining. What it is about is being more connected. It's about going deeper. It's about asking better questions. It's about understanding that they buy when they feel that you understand their problem or challenge better than anyone else, and focusing on that. So focus on understanding them rather than focusing on being understood. And then, of course, forget about the money. It's not about the money, right? It's not about the money. It's about the impact on the world. It's about the impact you can have on them. Keep your energy there. So with all that said, I hope you have an amazing rest of your Thursday. Have a good Friday. Have an amazing upcoming weekend. I'm Chris Kenny. I look forward to seeing you again right here inside of Sales Mastery Inner Circle. I'll be back in here next Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern for Thought Leader Thursday. I'm Chris Kenny. We'll see you really soon. Take care.